We're starting off this week on a weekend morning. On the menu we have easy Russian breakfast staple, syrniki. Translated to English means cheese, niki. The main ingredient is tvarog, or to the English-speaking ones, farmer's cheese. A type of cheese that is mostly popular on the right side of Europe, and rarely can be found in countries such as the Netherlands. So I have no choice but to make my own, or just find a decent alternative. And here I found some cottage cheese. That will do, I hope. After I successfully transferred the cheese in the bowl, I added some vanilla sugar and some boring average sugar, as well as some salt, flour, and topped it all off with an egg. Began mixing until everything seems combined, and realized that the batter is too wet compared to my video references. So I added some more flour, but not too much. I'm not a fan having hockey pucks for breakfast. I started by scooping some of the mixture, shaping it into a thick cookie, but soon gave up because everything seemed too sticky. So I skipped that part and just moved to the stove. I preheated the pan and added some butter and scooped some of the mixture onto the pan. I let it sizzle and do its thing. After a while I flipped them over to see the damages. They look not like I remember them. Oh well, they still seem edible, so I'll give it a try. To top off this sad stack of syrniki, I added some sour cream and berries. They look like nothing they should be looking like, but perhaps looks are deceiving. This is edible. It's not great, but it's a disgrace. Off camera, I proceeded to eat these pancakes. However, I soon realized that they were undercooked. Therefore, I had a tummy ache, mainly because of the raw flour. The next day for lunch, I'm having pelmeni, or Slavic dumplings. The recipe looks easy enough as it consists of few ingredients, and it seems promising. But we will see about that. I started by making a dough, combining flour, egg, a generous sprinkle of salt, and water, and started vigorously mixing the batter and holding it to my dear life, until the batter started to form and I dumped it on the table, kneading it until it stopped sticking to everything, and occasionally adding more flour, and some more flour, and a little more flour. After the dough seems manageable, cover it in plastic, or in my case put it in a plastic bag. I don't know how that will work out, but it's all I had. And let it live its life for 30 minutes without you. Time to make the filling. Carefully mince an onion and some garlic. I tried my best. Then mix it into the ground meat and add some salt and pepper. Now preparing the surface for the dough, I sprinkled some flour and unleashed the ball of dough. I don't have a rolling pin, so I resorted to this fancy bottle. Keep adding the flour to prevent sticking. Stop. Then take a circle cutter, or in this case, an old plastic bottle with ducks, and cut out some nice round shapes. Now we're ready to assemble. I took one of the circles and scooped up some of the meat mixture. From my video references, I took the dough and pinched it from all the sides and made sure that the filling stayed inside. Their dumplings seemed cute and elegant, and mine turned out looking like a ball. I think my ratio of meat to dough was off, so all of my dumplings looked like big balls. However, I rolled with it. I moved on to the stove. I tried cooking them for recommended 7 to 8 minutes, and everything seemed okay. However, the inside was raw.
This is fucking raw!
Damn it! So I tried cooking the smallest ones for longer than needed, and I think they turned out okay. So time to taste test. I topped it all off with some sour cream and a little bit of dill. They are safe to eat. Are they enjoyable? Debatable. The meat was separating from the dumpling, and the dumpling was separating from the meat. However, I ate them for lunch and there was no raw meat in it, so somewhat of a success. Today for lunch I'm making the New Year's Russian salad, olivje. Seems easy enough, hopefully this one will go well. I started by boiling some potatoes and carrots in an unsafely small pot, but everything fits, so I think it's fine. Boiling everything until the fork can pierce through their innocent souls, and then let everything cool. In the meantime, I'm also gonna boil some eggs. And for this, I just set a timer for 8 minutes. When everything is cooled down, the next step is moving on to the cutting board and starting the chopping ritual. Chopping everything into small pieces and adding them into the holy bowl. First potatoes. Chop and add. Then carrots. Chop and add. Hot dogs, the closest thing that I could find to kielbasa, but also you can use chicken. Chop and add. Cucumber, or you can also use pickles, but I just didn't feel like it. Chop and add. Moving on to the eggs. First we need to strip them down. You can see it's already getting hot and steamy in here. Chop and add. I'll just grab this one. Now that the chopping ritual is complete, we are just missing peas and a not so secret ingredient, mayo, that binds everything together and brings peace to the nations. And some herbs. And now we mix it. Typically the salad is made day before it will be served, so that the flavors have time to homogenize and become one. But I'm hungry, so I served it for lunch, with the closest thing I could find looking like rye bread on the side. This turned out to be the best thing so far. It's safe to eat, it tastes nice, and that's it. Next we're having kotleti for dinner. Something like Italian meatballs, but more like Russian meat discs. First I started chopping up half an onion to have a good cry after a long day. Then I tried cutting up some leftover baguette, but soon realized that it's easier to just tear it up with my bare hands. Then I soaked the baguette in milk, and I started questioning this recipe, and I let it soak for a bit. Moving on to the meat. Crack an egg into the meat mixture. Add some salt and pepper, and of course mix it all together. I think I should censor this. This doesn't look appetizing. Anyway, add the not so finely but I did my best chopped onion and the sad soggy bread. I mixed the questionable mixture and hoped for the best. I also added a little bit of flour to stop the mixture from becoming dry and disappointed. Then I scooped out a small handful of the mix and started shaping them into discs, or those mini pizza bagels for reference. I made 4 little meat babies and left 3 for tomorrow, as I have my dinners alone in front of my screen. So I preheated the pan, dazzled it with a little bit of vegetable oil, and proceeded to place the meat patties onto the pan. After a bit, I flipped them over and oh no, I burned them. But I think they still might be edible, so I just kept going. I added some water to let them cook inside, and covered it with a lid. After the water has evaporated, I can finally plate the dish. I have some boiled potatoes and tomatoes and cucumbers on the side. And the verdict is, they're a bit undersalted, but they're okay. I can safely eat them while watching Gordon Ramsay scold bad restaurant owners about their food. Today is a great day for pancakes. In a big bowl, I started by adding an egg. And don't forget to add a little bit of shell in it for some texture, some vegetable oil, and the yin and yang, also known as salt and pepper. I mean salt and sugar. And finally some flour before I started mixing it all together. The recipe I'm following suggested not to add wet ingredients to prevent clumps, but I ended up with a big giant clump instead. I'm hoping now by adding the water it's gonna resolve itself. But I feel like it would be more useful if I gradually added the water. But you live and you learn. I vigorously whisked the mixture and added the rest of the water as well as some milk. This has become thinner than a fruit smoothie. Nonetheless, I'm putting it in a timeout in the fridge for 30 minutes. The batter thickened up, I think, so it's time to set it on fire. I mean cook. I buttered my non-stick pan with some non-stick butter and spread it around like a virus. Now that everything is ready, I poured the batter into ladle intervals and moved it around to cover the whole pan. Do not be concerned if the batter starts moving. It's just the suppressed emotions trying to escape to the surface. As the edges start to brown, it means it's ready to be flipped. There's a Russian saying that the first pancake is gonna be a flop. And not to brag or anything, but I feel like I have defeated the odds, and mine is pretty good. Maybe I just discovered a hidden talent of mine. Let's not talk about the second one. Oh no. As I was done with my last pancake, it is ready to be served. I ran out of sour cream, so I topped it all off with some cottage cheese and cherries. Tastes like pancakes, so I think I did good this time. For dinner, I'm having everything but the kitchen sink, aka solynka, but a more simple version, because I'm not making soup for 2 hours. Started off with no other but the onion. Round of applause, everybody, slicing it into pieces. Then instead of a whole chunk of beef, I opted for some bacon and some of their friends' hot dogs. Then I discovered the new camera angle, circa BuzzFeed recipe videos, and I started chopping up some carrots, tiny pickles, and olives. Come on. Why doesn't it open? Okay, so there's one trick that I saw on TikTok. Oh my god, finally. And olives. Oh, and I had some leftover boiled potatoes that I will add in the end. So now that everything is sorted, we're moving on to the pot. Drizzling some vegetable oil before adding onions and bacon. Letting the onions become translucent and adding the carrots. I let it cook for a little bit and added some canned tomatoes. Then a little bit of water, a little bit of bouillon cube, and of course the courteous salt and pepper. I covered it with the lid and let it boil or simmer. I'm not too sure. After quite some time I added the rest of the ingredients. A little bit of that sweet pickle juice. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, fellow comrades, but I did not have a bay leaf. But I did have some dill, so I added that too. Let it all simmer for a hot minute and it's ready to be served. I topped it all off with none other but sour cream, and it was a great hearty salty soup. In a good way. Today we're making an easy apple pie, or cake, sharlotka. First things first, I'm cutting up some apples into slices with the skin on. Transferred them to a bowl and realized that the bowl is too small, so I switched to a bigger one. I cut a piece of lemon to extract the juices from, and also topped the apples off with some cinnamon, and mixed it all together. I cracked some eggs into the big bowl, and started incorporating air by efficiently blending it with an old inefficient mixer. Then I gradually started adding the sugar, making the eggs into a fluffy batter. I forgot to add some vanilla, so I just added it now without mixing it in. Better late than never. And topped it all off with some flour. Then last but not least, some sour cream. I gently folded everything in to not lose the batter's fluffiness. Now that it's all folded like a fresh iron shirt, time to assemble. I sprinkled some sugar on my parchment baking tin and started putting apple slices in a flimsy spiral. Then I poured the cloudy batter on top and continued with creating a spiral by nudging the apples into the batter. And topped it all off with some cinnamon. I baked it for 45 minutes and let it cool till it was cool. Later that day, I carefully cut around the tin to make it come out from the closet. I mean tin. I sprinkled with some homemade powdered sugar, and it was ready to be served. The cake was nice and fluffy, only next time I would rather incorporate the apples into the batter throughout.
There is apple in here.
It's an apple pie.
This is surprisingly soft. I don't know. I'm kind of not used to apple pie being this soft.